Right, we want to hear also from our panelists, of course, with the looming drought, what has been ongoing. We're given to understand that Treasury has already disbursed 16 billion shillings. We saw the efforts also by Kenya Red Cross there. So we want to hear from them. Why are we in this situation? And it seems it is very cyclical. Every year, we tend to actually have the same pictures, fixated on our screens. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm holding court this morning with Mike Eldon, who is management consultant, also the chairman of KCA University. We have with us also Honorable Nderitu Muriithi, the former assistant minister, Ministry of Industrialisation, and also he is an economist. Also, we have Phyllis Wakiaga with us. She's the CEO of Kenya Manufacturers Association. And we have also Dr. Geoffrey Mwau, who is the Director General, Physical Budget and Economic Affairs from Treasury. And we have with us as well Aly-Khan Satchu, who is CEO of Rich Management and also is a financial analyst. Let's begin with you, Dr. Geoffrey Mwau. You've disbursed 16 billion shillings, and of course we understand as well that a tidy sum of money has been given to the National Drought Management Authority to be the custodian of this. Why are we in this situation again? Are we none the wiser in terms of learning when it comes to droughts?
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us to talk about the state of the economy. I think we understand that Kenya, where it is, we are going to be facing drought situations for long because of the, first of all, climate change is causing a lot of changes in our climatic conditions.
Yes.
But Kenya, where it has been all along, has been, we've been facing drought most of of the time. Actually, 2/3 of Kenya is arid or semi-arid, and so we expect that. The question is, what are we doing about it? And one thing we have started doing, especially with this government, is one of our key pillars of growth was to actually move away from rain-fed agriculture to irrigation, and I think we have made a lot of progress in that area. But we still face this, and that's why we have the NDMA, National Drought Management Authority, and other institutions that are addressing drought challenges when they come. As you said, we have budgeted, not allocated, budgeted for 16 billion if drought conditions continue for the next 9 months. So far, we have disbursed about 5.1 billion. We are just about to disburse the rest of the amount. But again, this we are disbursing based on the assumption that the long rains will come in April. If they don't come, we still have another budget that we will disburse. But the total amount that is budgeted is about 16 billion.
All right.
Yeah, and that's our own money. It's not donor dependent. So we expect our partners to also, come and support the situation. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Mwau. And just to ask you, Mike Eldon, it seems we have these patterns from the meteorological department. Of course, they have focused it after every 5 years. We know there will be a dry spell, and now this has been staggered and gone down to 3. We don't know what will happen next. Why aren't we picking up tabs also from Met's department to actually prepare? We always seem to be having these knee-jerk reactions.
It's easily said we should be prepared. The challenge, of course, is that climate change is becoming particularly serious, not least in Africa, where, as we're hearing from Geoffrey, it's always been serious, but now it's getting more serious and more unpredictable in its patterns. And so it's like we have to keep running faster and faster to even remain where we were. But also, this is a longer-term issue of having to get cleverer and more productive about how we grow food, isn't it? And how we work with irrigation. And that is a major transformation that's required. And I think this is where we need to make bigger progress. And it's like, maybe we'll be talking later about TIVIT. Phyllis has an article about it today on our page in Business Daily. And
you've already owned it, our page.
And so, we need to improve the image of Tibet, we need to improve the image of farming and agriculture, and of making it a commercial, productive venture. And when we do more of that, and a different kind of person, younger, more educated, more dynamic,
yes,
goes into farming, I think that will be a big key to a solution orientation for preventing the consequences of drought.
Right.
Let me just add something to that. Actually, it's not that we are not prepared. We're actually very prepared. For example, in our budget, we always budget for a contingency fund of about 10 billion. And we have other programs that are there to address drought conditions. We're just about to set up the drought management fund. We have, with our partners, the World Bank and other partners, we are arranging other facilities that can help us to, access financing when this kind of catastrophic situation happens. So, in terms of preparedness, actually we are prepared. And Kenya is one of the leading countries in terms of, predicting drought conditions and early warning mechanisms and all that. So there's a lot of work that's already been, undertaken to be able to respond to this.
All right.
But obviously, when you get a situation like the one we have this year, which is very severe, you are going to see some negative effects.
Okay, Honorable Nderitu Muriithi.
Well, I think we need to get back on track on the question of irrigated agriculture, because if you look at Vision 2030 and the idea that we need to move away from subsistence to more irrigated agriculture, and what has happened there, although Garana Kuraru irrigation scheme is started, I think we are lagging behind, for example, on the big dams that would have supported this, like High Grand Falls, that gets in the pipeline and off the pipeline very often in terms of projects that are supposed to be completed or even started, forget completed. So I think the long-term question is to move towards irrigated agriculture and to depend less on subsistence. In terms of livestock, I think the longer-term question again is to move more towards grown fodder as opposed to depending on pasture that is regenerated when it rains. I think it requires deeper commitment both at national government level and at county level, because remember again, a lot of agriculture and livestock is devolved, is a devolved function. So what the national government, what perhaps Jeff can tell us is, can we get back on track in terms of the big irrigation programs and what we see in the medium term? Because ultimately, we know that every January, February, we have a dry spell.
Yes.
And we know that every 3 years or 4 years, we have a really big dry spell. So we know that the solution is let's do irrigated agriculture. And if you look at, as I said, if you look at Vision 2030 and other foundational policy documents, that is the direction we say we are going, but we need to do more to implement in that direction.
All right, Phyllis Wakiaga.
Thank you very much. I think listening to Geoffrey Mwau, we seem to have the plans in place. So as a country, it's more about implementation of what we have as plans. Because the drought is already starting to have an impact, say, on manufacturers. One of my members who manufactures something out of animal feeds is currently challenged because there are no animal feeds, they're not able to get their raw material. The impact it can also have in terms of the cost of power because of the dams drying out can also have an impact in terms of the price of energy to the manufacturers. So we are concerned about the fact that we have this recurrent and happening every time there's a drought, and yet we should actually plan. From Treasury, there are those plans, the documents are there, the policies are there. Can we be more proactive? Not just as government, but as industry. What do we need to do to ensure that when this drought happens, it doesn't affect us? Can we invest more in other sources of energy? Move more to, say, the geothermal, the windmills that we have in, the wind energy that we have in Turkana, because that way we'll be able to cushion ourselves more from the impacts of the drought. So my view is proactivity as a country looking at mechanized and irrigated agriculture, because that would make a very big difference. Because in addition to the fact that we're relying on rain, our agriculture is also not highly mechanized and productive. So all that put together has an impact in terms of the cost of the raw materials.
So it's not really the aspect of poor planning also from government, is it? More proactiveness at all?
More proactiveness, because it seems like they have all the policies in place that need to be, they've budgeted for it. So maybe earlier reaction, because I remember the last time we were here, we were saying it appeared like we were surprised there was a drought, yet there were signs all along that it was coming.
Yet the Met Department has always been warning, it's looming, it's coming.
Yeah.
Aly-Khan.
So the first thing I think is this is not going to get better. This is a trend, I think, that has gone in one direction. We know the direction of travel. There's a lot of work being invested into reducing the global warming, but I think what we can safely say is that it will continue to still get worse. And I think the problem is, it's quite ironic, isn't it, that really Africa never industrialized to this degree, and we're suffering the consequences of industrialization and pollution and the blowback of all of that. And I think I saw a report saying 18 of the 20 most affected countries are on the African continent. So this is an issue, I think, which is going to recur probably more frequently. You were describing a 5-year recurrence and then a 3. I mean, it's pretty worrying what's going to happen. So definitely, I think we've got to plan better. And I think everything I heard from the panel is absolutely right. I mean, we've got to mechanize our agriculture. It was quite funny when it was pouring with rain, and by the way, that was a rain system from the DR Congo, so it was unseasonal. It's not expected to last very dramatic like it would be in the forest, I imagine. But so I think we've still got this problem. You know, it doesn't look as if we've been hit with the rain, but the point, ultimately, I think this problem's going to get worse for us. We got to get more with it, and we got to work out how exactly we go around dealing with it. The problems, of course, hit the economy quite hard. Food prices tend to go up. You'll remember the last inflationary surge was entirely correlated to the weather. I think it was 2011, if I remember correctly. So far, it seems that the indicators are relatively benign. Inflation is at 6.99, but obviously, if this gets worse, we're going to see all of that go slightly out of sync. And we need to be aware of that correlation. It hits the economy very quickly, very hard, and it has side effects for monetary policy and a lot more as well.
But isn't it astonishing as well that in our strategic grain reserves, you know, we don't have enough storage when it comes to actually the cereals, and you know, we are importing.
I don't think we have enough storage for much, actually. Even you look at fuel. I quite often on a Sunday evening, you'll find that the fuel is empty. So I think also when you look at fuel, you look at food, I think there's a huge business case to be made for much more storage across this economy, and with a view to also looking at the regional side.
Right, so we can actually try and uncouple this, because we can say, of course, we have the external shocks as well, contributing to where we are as well when it comes to oil prices. But when we have this situation and we are still none the wiser 5 years down the line, what should we do? We know there's a food security bill also that is on the floor of the House that they are saying we should come with a food secretariat. Which will come actually and harness all these corporations that we have, the National Cereals Produce Board, we have the National Drought Management. All these will be under the Food Secretariat, so that they can be harmony. Because yes, we here from the Met Department, we are giving early warnings. No one is picking up tabs and actually reacting on it. She talks about proactiveness. Should we come up with this Food Secretariat once and for all? Let's hear from.
I think that you know, we every time when we are faced with any circumstance in Kenya, we see, first of all, one reaction is to create a new institution instead of fixing the old ones. Why are they not working? Number two, the idea of strategic grain reserve, in my view, is outdated. What we need is strategic food reserve, so that we stop thinking that the only food that we can store is grain. I mean, look at the livestock economy and so on. Why are we not talking about biltong and other forms of dried meat that can last for several years? So this notion that only grain can help us in periods when and in any case, we are a poor producer of grain. We are a high-cost producer of grain. Yeah. So I think we need to reform our own thinking about what these solutions are. And above all, let's just stop. Every time when we face a situation, the answer is not always that we need a new institution.
Yes.
The answer is actually to fix some of the old ones. And in Cereals and Produce Board, a perennial problem, you know, both in terms of governance questions, in terms of allegations of malpractice and so on. So I think that what we need is expand the scope of what we can keep as food for the days when we have challenges. And number three, fix the already existing institutions, not just slapping a new layer on top of them.
All right, let's hear from Mwau. We'll come to you, Mike. Let's hear from Dr. Mwau.
Yeah, I think, for example, so far, I haven't even heard anybody say that there's no food in this country, so far. And the idea of a food reserve is fine, but the most important thing is to make sure that there's food available as and when needed, whether you're importing it.
You've not heard that there's no enough food in the country?
Yes.
But you've heard there are 5 people who have died so far.
Well, I've read that, but that can happen. But the situation, the issue is that if you can get food from anywhere in the world, and that's what he's alluding to, that we are actually a high-cost producer.
Yes.
We should be able to get food where it is at the least cost. But at the same time, of course, there is need to have some strategic reserve, and I think we have done a lot on that. And I just want to say that, you know, these are not just plans. If you look at what we have done in terms of irrigation for the last 4 years, is here there are many irrigation programs that have taken place. In terms of energy, the reason why electricity prices have not gone up is because we have shifted to geothermal. And now we are not affected the way we were affected in 2009 when all the dams dried and we had to import heavy fuel to generate power. So there is a lot of progress, and we actually document this every year in our budget policy statement. If you look at it now, you see how much we have done in all these sectors. So it's not just a plan, or it is actually happening. And the information is there for you to see. But obviously, as Aly-Khan has said, Kenya is going to face this challenge for quite a while, and actually globally. Even my other colleagues have alluded to that because of climate change and because of you know, the weather dynamics that are taking place globally.
Thank you. Mike Eldon.
You know, I wanted to come in before Geoffrey spoke because I wanted to help him a bit.
Thank you.
And as always, you're doing a great job provoking us by saying something like, oh, we're none the wiser. You know? And I'm not sure we are none the wiser. And it's always easy when one is an observer, whether you're the media or the private sector or the international community, to criticize from the stands. And to underestimate what actually is happening on the ground, whether it is fixing institutions or doing irrigation or whatever. I just want to comment on this one of fixing institutions. And one of the things that needs fixing, and I'm agreeing with you, we don't need lots of new institutions or even one, but we need more collaboration between institutions. There are too many silos in government and in all big organizations.
Right.
In our consultancy, I don't think there is a single workshop we run where people don't complain about silos, and we help them reduce the walls and the barriers between head office and the field, and between this project and that initiative. So government has the biggest challenge of all, doesn't it, in collaboration? And who are the collaboration facilitators? And do we have enough of them, enough interministerial activity, enough national, county, you know, the intergovernmental stuff? This is what needs oiling and improving, and it's a continuous process, and people nowhere, not in the private sector either, are good at that. We're talking about food silos, I'm talking about institutional silos.
All right. Maybe we can wind up on it. Your final
thoughts. And a final point, sorry. The government does a lot of good things, but it's very poor at communicating them. We don't have a serious government projection of what is happening, and it allows these negative perceptions to become the conventional wisdom.
Right, thank you. Phyllis, let's just wind up on it.
I agree with Mike. I was going to say that we need to have increased coordination because we have all the institutions, but if they could work better together, it would address the challenge that we have, where we have one institution running off doing one thing and they're not really coordinating the activities they have. So I know government has the right goodwill. They've done a lot, as has been said, in terms of investment in geothermal, and the energy mix has actually improved significantly. So we don't have as much impact on the cost of the fuel adjustment levy as we would have in the past. So we agree that you're doing as much as you can, but let's coordinate better. Yeah.
Allow me just one quick. Look, irrigated agriculture. And I agree we are doing something. I'm not suggesting that we've been sitting still. But look, Kuraru Garana is not, to our understanding, a fully financed program. I mean, we have started, but in terms of how we will irrigate the entire 1 million acres, it is not really farmed up. And part of the reason is that the big dams that would provide water for this irrigation are not themselves financed. And the biggest of them is High Grand Falls, which because of, I would say, factional fights within, for 6-7 years, we've not been able to get this dam off the ground in terms of financing. And you just saw recently a curious advertisement by the National Irrigation Board asking for, international advertisement, asking for public-private partnership in building of this dam. And I'm not sure that really it is more than PR, because if you think about if we need to relocate people and other big questions like that, that only government can solve, then you can see that really for another 3, 4, 5 years, we will not have figured out how to build the High Grand Falls. So, yes, we are doing something, but the big thing that we need to do is to build the big dam so we can irrigate the 1 million acres, and we have not figured that out.
All right, Aly-Khan.
No, I'm just touching on the point that Mike was making about collaboration. I think, we are in an age of collaboration, whether it's your personal networks or your corporate networks, and you have to extend beyond your corporate network, and the richer your network is and your ability to collaborate, I think over time you significantly outperform, whether it's at a personal level, whether it's at a corporate level, or whether it's at a government level.
Right, thank you.